Salut, bonjour, hello year 11, it's Mr. Calvert here. Little revision video here looking at some listening and reading skills which deal with sequencing events and trying to understand how things are narrated. This is one of the really big and important skills that you need to be able to do in the reading and listening exams, and it's understanding when events take place or have taken place or will take place, but also how they relate to each other as well. And the key thing here is that at the higher French exam uses some quite specific language for this. There are some classic little words and phrases that I can guarantee will be in the exam that will come up. Now, we're going to look at this in two ways. We're going to look at the phrases themselves and how they help sequence events. And then I've got just a couple of examples of how events can be sequenced together in context. So the key thing I want you to keep in mind throughout this, and that I want you to have as one of the many things that will be whizzing around your head in the exam, is has the event happened yet or has it not? It's got a little bit of an aspect of probability to it. What's the likelihood of this happening? Has it already happened? Is it going to happen in the future? Is it all those kind of things? Keep that idea in your head, and all of the stuff we're thinking of today in this session is about has it happened yet or not, and will it happen or will it not happen. So, got a little list of bits and pieces here for us, and we're going to just work through what these mean together, and I'm going to write them in. So if I can find my thing's upside down, typically. I haven't used this since virtual school, I don't think. Brilliant. So, starting at the top, we've got avant. This is an absolute classic, will definitely be in the exam, and really it just means before. Really out of practice writing with this as well. So it means before. Turn that into a better or. Okay, so pendant has got two meanings here. Now, most of the time you'll see it meaning during. Wow, my writing is so bad. I'm going to have to rub this out because I can't cope with it. We shall start again. So we've got before. And then pendant is during, but probably in context we would translate it more as just meaning for, but we'll see what this means in a second. This one then, la with this big gap in between it, and then foi is going to be the, and then something, time at the end. Next one, encore, really tricky one here. So it means again, as in encore at the end of a theatre performance or music or whatever, but it can also mean still sometimes. We're going to look at these in more detail, so don't worry too much if you just think, oh, what's he throwing at me? So sur le point de, really nice one here, literally means at the point of or on the point of, but in English we would probably more naturally say about to, if something is about to happen. Not happened yet, but it's just about to happen. Absolute classic here, vient de means just. We'll look at this more in a second. My writing's shocking. Autrefois, easiest one on the whole thing, just another way of saying in the past. I'm writing dans le passé for you. So another way of saying dans le passé. Auparavant is actually the same as avant, more or less, means before. However, I, in my head, tend to think of it more as meaning previously. So something was previous to something else. Next one, depuis, quite similar to pendant actually, so technically on paper it means since, but again, we're probably going to just translate this into English as for. Then ne plus, or ne plus, is going to be no longer. I don't know why I put dots there, but I did. Or it might be no more, or anymore. You don't do something anymore. And then these two bottom ones I've put in yellow because they are words that you probably know quite well, but in the exam they're being increasingly used to make this distinction between the different events when different events take place. So vieux, vieille, vieille is old, and nouveau, nouvelle, nouvelle is new. But we, as I say in a second, will look a bit more in a bit more detail at them. I still can't get over how bad my writing is here, but never mind, onwards and upwards. So we're going to move on now, and we're going to look at each one just individually. What I will do before that is I'm just going to, just from a listening perspective, I'm going to read out the list of French words for you to listen through to. I would suggest probably at this point you take a little pause, listen back, and practice them. You could listen to the next few minutes of the video, go back, go away, do something else, all those kind of things that you're used to doing to help your revision. Okay? Avant, pendant, pendant. I'll say the other things here. La dernière fois is the last time. La première fois is the first time. And then we've got la prochaine fois, the next time. Fois, fois. Encore, sur le point de, vient, vient de, vient de. Autrefois, autrefois. Auparavant, auparavant. Depuis, depuis. Ne plus, ne plus. Vieux, vieille, vieille. Nouveau, nouvelle, nouvelle. Okay, so again, pause, listen back, practice them, do whatever you want. Cover up the English, have the English there, take them off, whatever else. Okay, wonderful. So to get started, we're going to begin with avant and auparavant. Now, these two little phrases, what they do is they position an event or something that has happened further in the past than other events that are connected to them. So there will be other things going on. Usually in exam questions, it's presented as an interplay between the past and the present, or if you flip it the other way, the present and the past. Generally what they do is they make reference to the past tense thing first. They have a little connective in the middle to make a contrast, and then they say what is the current situation. Now, we'll look at these two examples and I'll show you how this works in terms of exam skill. So we've got the first one. Avant, elle était institutrice, mais maintenant, elle travaille comme infirmière. So before or previously, she was a primary school teacher, but now she works as a nurse. The next one here, taking this from technology topic. Auparavant, Internet n'était pas aussi néfaste pour les jeunes. Cependant, aujourd'hui, le nombre de dangers en ligne a vraiment augmenté. So in the past, or you could say in the past actually, so in the past, previously, before, the internet wasn't as dangerous for young people. However, today, the number of dangers online has really increased. Now, I've seen you do this in lessons when we do, particularly when we do listening, that you hear you hear the first bit. So if it was this section, writing is still really bad. You hear this first section all the way to there, and you then, everyone's head goes down and you write the answer. Whereas actually what is happening is this little connective, so the mais or the cependant, is introducing the bit that really describes the current situation. So if you hear avant or auparavant, that is describing what has already happened, something that's already taken place, but something else has come along and basically removed that or taken it out. So in the first example, this lady, whoever it was, she used to be a primary school teacher, but for whatever reasons, other events have taken place and now she works as a nurse. Similarly, in the second one, we've got in the past the suggestion that the internet wasn't as damaging for young people, but since then, today, the number of dangers has increased for whatever reason. So it's an interplay, it's playing off the two things between each other. So if you hear or see avant or auparavant, that is saying that something else has already happened, but generally the thing that follows it, or sometimes if they flip it on its head, the thing that's already been mentioned is generally the answer to whatever the question may need. Okay, moving on to pendant. Pendant. So this generally means during, but most of the time we're going to translate it as for. And what pendant is used for is describing how long an event takes place for, or if we're going proper English, for how long an event takes place. The thing with this is it can be used in any tense, so we've got to keep a little bit of an eye on that, and that's probably why I'm not going to spend too long on it now. So we've got three sentences here. The first one is in the past, the second one is in the present, and the third one is in the future. Now, actually, in terms of how we handle the translation of this into English, the past and the present, to make it into more natural English, we're going to describe it both in the same tense. However, the key thing to remember is that what you need to work out is really this end bit, because that is telling you the length of time that event has taken place for or will take place for. So the first sentence, elle a appris le français pendant 10 ans. So she has learned French for 10 years. Next one, je joue professionnellement au foot pendant 5 mois. So this is in the present tense, but in English we would say I have been playing football professionally for 5 months. Now, in these two cases, both of these things, they're actually continuing as from the context that we've got. She has been learning French for 10 years, or she's learned French for 10 years, and that is still ongoing. And then same thing with the professional footballer, that person has been playing football for 5 months, and we've got every reason to assume that she or he is still doing that now. The final one, which is in the future tense, nous irons en vacances en Italie pendant 1 mois. So we will go, so will future tense here, on holiday to Italy for a month. So that thing hasn't happened yet, but really all you need to understand is that that thing is going to last the duration of a month. It could be a week, it could be an hour, or whatever else. So probably quite an easy one in terms of it's just about understanding the length of time that event will last. Okay, we had this earlier on. These are the other 3 meanings that we've got then. So the word fois, if you think of quelquefois, which you probably know quite well, meaning sometimes, the word fois is just meaning time. Contrast that with the word temps, which you know pretty well, as in de temps en temps, tout le temps. They use this quite often because I would say probably most French students know temps a bit more than fois, and it's just, again, another way of trying to catch you out a little bit. The additional thing that they do here is that they accompany it with some adjectives, and the 3 most common ones will be last, first, or next. So la dernière fois is the last time, la première fois is the first time, and then la prochaine fois is the first time. Now, if we look at la dernière fois, this can work in 2 ways. So it can describe directly the last time that somebody did something, so the last time I went to France, the last time I ate pizza, or anything like that. However, it can also be a reference to the last time that somebody wants to do that thing, as in they never want to do it again. It's the last time that I go to Asda. It's the last time that I will go on a bus. So be prepared for that. It could be last time as in referencing a point in the past, but it could also be the last time as in somebody saying it's the last time that they want to do it. La première fois, what this one generally gets used as is meaning that the thing has never happened before. They've never done that thing before, and this is the first time that they've done it. So the classic type of question is, it'll be ABC, this person has played the violin for 10 years. And then in the question, it'll say, c'est la première fois que j'ai joué de la violon. It's the first time that I've played the violin. So really what that's helping you do is discredit that answer. So la première fois gets used as that. La prochaine fois, the next time. Now this can be used in exactly the same way as la dernière fois, in that it can refer to a future event. So what is someone is going to do the next time they do things. However, a lot of the time it gets used to say what people will do differently. So la prochaine fois, then they're saying, I'm not going to do this, or I won't bother, or I've already done this thing, blah, 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 but next time I don't want to do it again, or I don't want to do this because it's too expensive, or it's too boring, or whatever else. So if you hear la prochaine fois, it's usually that they're just adding, or see in the reading, that they're adding in a little negative at the end, or a positive it could be, to really cancel out the thing that's already been mentioned. So quite a tricky one to watch out for. Okay, encore. Speaking of tricky, here we go. Not going to spend too much time on this. 2 meanings here. So as I said earlier, it's again as in think of you're at the theatre or you're at a music performance or whatever, everyone's clapping and just say encore, encore. It's a bit of a cliche. And it just means again, that you want that thing to happen again. However, it can also mean still. So the suggestion there is that that event is taking place, it's still happening. Let's just do a little contrast on these 2 sentences. So we've got number 1 and number 2. Je ne veux pas étudier le français encore. I don't want to study French again. And then number 2, j'étudie le français encore. I am still studying French. So some of you might be doing that next year because I know a couple of you want to do A-level. The thing to keep an eye on here actually is the negative. So this ne pas has got a bit of a relation to the encore. So generally speaking, if there's a negative around, it's going to be again. You don't want to do that again. I don't want to do this. Or actually, without the negative, the use of the, or it could sometimes be voudrait. You want to do that again. The idea of wanting is often linked with the word again. If you've got none of those, as we do in number 2, it's probably suggesting that it is still. But that's quite a tricky one to work out. Okay, very common, actually common exam phrase. My writing's getting better now. I really like this as a phrase, actually. Literally means at the point of. English, though, we're probably just going to say about to. Key thing here is that the event has not happened yet. So that thing has not taken place. Most commonly it gets used in the past and the present. You could see it used in the future, but it would probably be a bit awkward. So a couple of examples here. J'étais sur le point de manger. So in literal terms, I was at the point of eating, or you were just about to eat. Sometimes they add in a just actually, so just about. So I was about to eat, but then something interrupted that and stopped it and made something else happen. So the eating hasn't taken place. Bottom one, this is relevant to probably all of you. Je suis sur le point de continuer mes études. So that's in the present tense. I am just about to continue my studies at during sixth form, EDC or whatever, or apprenticeship or anything like that. But the key thing, that event has not happened yet. So if you hear or see sur le point de, the thing hasn't taken place. Okie dokie, so absolute GCSE French Higher classic, vient de, or vient de with a T, they both sound exactly the same. Sometimes you might get vienne, so watch out for that, vient de. This is a classic phrase, so when you combine it with an infinitive, it's meaning just or has, really has just or have just. So if we look at this, je viens de manger, I have just eaten. Je viens de boire, I've just drank or just drunk. Je viens de visiter, I've just visited. Je viens de, anything like that. Viennent is coming in with like il and l for the they form. So ils viennent d'écouter. They've just listened. What this is doing is it's changing the meaning of the infinitive that follows it. So here, the manger, it is turning it actually into the past tense. This is the key thing to remember with vient de. It's positioning something in the past. So je viens de manger, je viens de visiter, je viens d'aller, I've just gone, anything like that. So if you see or hear this vient, it's telling you that actually that event is in the past. And this is a really, really common classic. It'll probably only crop up once. It might come up once in the listening, once in the reading, but I can guarantee that it will be there, and it's really just worth watching out for. Okay? Next up, easy one, autrefois. A lot of you use this in your speaking exam actually, so don't need to spend too much time on it. It's just the same meaning as dans le passé, so in the past. But because people know dans le passé so well, they tend to use this instead of that. Okay, so this depuis, I am going to make this really sharp and really easy. The grammar behind this is really tricky. I think we looked at this back in year 10. This is not about you using it in your writing. This is just about trying to understand what it means in the listening and reading, so we can actually keep it quite simple. It's easier than it appears, and generally speaking, you know that I say that with a little bit of health warning. Most of the time, it's suggesting that that event is still ongoing. So if you look at these two examples, je joue au tennis depuis l'âge de 10 ans. I have been playing tennis since the age of 12, or I have been playing tennis, actually since it only works with since there. That event is still ongoing. You're still playing tennis. The second one, nous visitons la France chaque été depuis 2013. So we have been visiting France every summer since 2013. You could use this as meaning for as well, rather than since. So you could say here, je joue au tennis depuis 10 ans. So if we got rid of that, I have been playing tennis for 10 years. But again, the idea is that that event is still continuing and taking place. So any reference to depuis, instantly jumping out, slapping you on the face and saying it's still happening, it's still ongoing. Okay, this is a really, really, really tricky one. This negative comes up a lot. I left it out of the other video where I'd included some negatives because I think it fits a little bit better here. What this is suggesting is that that event no longer happened, no longer happens, or will no longer happen in the future. I've put no more here. It can be any more as well. The thing is here that it's unlikely for this event to happen again, although it has happened once. So it's already taken place, but something's changed and the person or the people involved in that event or action don't want it to happen again. So 2 examples here. Je ne voudrais plus parler avec mon frère. I no longer want to speak with my brother. Could say that I don't want to speak to my brother anymore. You don't want it to happen because you've had this big fallout and you'd want that thing to stop. Second one, nous n'allons plus visiter la France. We are no longer going to visit France, or we no longer want to. It doesn't have want in there, but we no longer want to visit France anymore. We don't want to visit France anymore. So just the idea that that event is finished, it's over, and it's unlikely to happen again unless there's another change in circumstances. Key thing there is obviously that plus, or plus, depending on where it fits in the sentence, is really common word, so you need to be keeping your little detective skills out for the n as well. And as we've seen here, it can sometimes just be n apostrophe, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Now, this is the penultimate one on here. These two, this is becoming increasingly used in the exam, and I've spotted this in various exam questions, that they're using the word new and old to make a reference to past or future events. We'll look at an example I've got in a couple of slides' time, but for what we need now, generally speaking, new is referring to the future, or actually what's happening in the present, and then old is referring to the past. That might seem really obvious, but this is quite a new thing for them to do in the exam. So really, really watch out for this, because this comes up quite a lot. But it can be an easy little win. If you hear someone refer to new, generally speaking, it's saying, right, that thing is either happening now or it's going to happen in the future. Similarly with old, that thing has already happened and it's somewhere in the past. Last little thing for you to consider. Now, all of the stuff I've just said there can be completely cancelled out and turned exactly on its head by using a negative. So if we take these 2 examples that I've picked here, ce n'est pas la première fois, this comes up a lot, you'd be surprised. Ce n'est pas la première fois, it is not the first time. The implication that we've got there is that actually this thing has happened before. So earlier I said if it's la première fois, it's never happened before. But if we've got the ce n'est pas, actually what that is saying is that it has happened before. Same thing here with je ne suis pas sur le point de réussir. I am not about to succeed. I'm not at the point of success. The implication here is that that person is not going to do well, so that thing is actually not going to happen. So as always, just keep a real sharp eye and ear out for those negatives to switch the meaning completely, and they could probably use them with nearly every one of the phrases that we've had there. But really, in simple terms, all it's doing is reversing the meaning. It's putting the meaning in the complete other way. Okay? What I would suggest you do now is we can either move on, because we're going to just take a look at a couple of these in context and then we're finished. I would perhaps go through and just listen again, practice, maybe go back to the point where I just read them out just to get them in your ears a bit more, and we'll then move on to look at some in exam style types of situations. So, first off, I thought I'd do it this way. I've done this in English to try and just help you understand and see I keep using the word interplay. These words and phrases all play off against each other, and they either cancel each other out, or they add more information in, or they add more detail or nuance to what has been said. So if we look at this little phrase here, I'm going to just let you read it yourself because you don't need me to read it out. It's in English. And I want you to just think for a moment how these different phrases change the sequence of events. They're not used necessarily in order. What's being referred to, where do things happen, when have they not happened, when will they happen, all that kind of thing. And I would pause and just read it and have a little think about that. So if we take a look together then, we've got a lot of stuff going on here. The first sentence, I have lived in Horden for. Now this for is, if we were going to put this into French, is going to be our depuis. because that thing is still going on. As far as we're aware, that person still lives in Horden, shout out to Horden, for 12 months. Then, following it, we've got our classic thing. It's the first time I've lived in a terraced house. So they've never lived in a terraced house. If we move on, we've then got a reference to before. So we're moving further back in the past to say where they used to live. So they used to live in a flat in Glasgow. All this other stuff is just filler about the dog and the family, too small, too uncomfortable. You don't need to be able to understand that. Then, the last little bit, we've got two things going on here. So we've got unfortunately, so that's thrown in a contrast straight away. We've got no longer, I can no longer study Spanish, so that event can't happen anymore. It has happened in the past, but they can't do it anymore. And we've also had thrown in this lovely little word new to make a suggestion about something that's going to happen in the future. So they can no longer do this because the new school doesn't offer Spanish to the students. So if you just see there in English, we've got lots of different things there, all playing off against each other to describe a lot of different events taking place in lots of different time frames. If we look now at this in French, so I've just translated this into French, we need to now be able to work out what the answer to the question would be. And generally speaking, it's an A, B, C, 3 options, and all of these things are vaguely mentioned in some way. So if we take the first one, for example, we've got this word for 12. We've got the word for 12 in the text. Now, you could really easily be completely stuck with everything else. Oh, but I can see the word for 12, particularly if let's think of this as listening. 12 mois, you hear the word 12. Okay, got to be A. You write down A and then you just ignore the rest. We've got things here, on B, has never lived in a terraced house. So we've got the never there. But what we've got in the text, or again, it's text, or if we heard this in the audio, la première fois. So you are working out then, okay, it's the first time that they've lived in this type of house. So actually, they've never lived in that type of house before because it's the first time that they've done it. So never is a good way to link to, if you come across la première fois, the first time means that thing has never happened. Then here we've got would like to study German. Now this is a bit of a curveball. We don't really have the word for German, but what we have got is étudier there, so there is a reference to study, but this is just a bit of general vocab knowledge that espagnol means Spanish. So actually, all 3 things are mentioned, all 3 things are there. What you need to be able to do is work out which one is the most relevant, and sadly, they are always going to do it by using, remember what we say about synonyms, different words, different ways of saying the same thing, and that needs to form part of your planning time, particularly in the listening exam when you've got those 5 minutes. For example, if you see the word never, just make a little note, la première fois. You could just put la première fois just to save you some time, and if you hear that, it's probably giving you an indication that it is this, although do remember, if it was ce n'est pas la première fois, that's saying it's not the first time. So it's always more complicated than it needs to be. A little bit of a wah attention, attention, watch out, keep this in mind. Sometimes things may be sequenced within one tense. So the example we just had there, that had a bit of everything going on. It had a bit of suggestion of things happening in the future. It had things that had happened in the past. It had ongoing present tense things as well. Whereas sometimes you might get something that's just in one tense. I'm going to go out there and just say it's generally in the past tense, and they put these different events in the past further in the past, or the things that have happened more recently, but you still need to be able to sequence when those things took place. So if we look at this is a really, really complicated little paragraph that I've put together, really, really hard. And there are lots and lots of things that may trip you up. So I'm going to read it out. Les problèmes sociaux en France augmentent depuis plus de 10 ans et ce n'est pas la première fois. Les magasins qui ont pour but une mission caritative étaient sur le point de fermer en 2017, mais un nombre d'entre eux viennent d'être sauvés. Avant, les vieilles entreprises bénévoles ont été victimes de la crise économique, mais il reste encore un danger de fermeture dans certains endroits dans le sud du pays. Absolutely, loads going on there. The language is really complex. It is really challenging. The context here is social issues, particularly charities and things like that. Now, the gist, tell you what, take a pause. What is the gist? What am I getting at? You might want to make a few notes. Obviously, you've got the text there to read from as well, and then we'll discuss what the gist is in a second. So the gist here is about social problems, but also about economic problems, and it's specifically talking about charity shops, saying that charity shops have experienced problems, some of them have closed, but at the same time, some of them have managed to survive and are still having some success. Now, in terms of sequencing the events here, we've got all kinds of things going on. So, that was a good one. Rub that out. So if we take the first little thing we've got here, we've got depuis. So we've got a reference to depuis. So what depuis really is telling us is the longer period of events that have happened. So if we remember augmenter, this is in the vocab that I gave you on one of my other videos. This is talking about anything that increase. So social problems in France have been increasing for, and now we've got plus de, so more than, and really the key thing we need here is 10 ans. So social problems in France have been increasing for more than 12 years. Then here we are, our good little friend, ce n'est pas la première fois. So it's not the first time. So this has happened before. So instantly, although this event has been going on for a while, the ce n'est pas la première fois is positioning it instantly further in the past. Things, remember as well, this is a bit of a sideline. Things that you don't know and understand, a lot of this you need to just discard it. Don't get tangled up in it. Don't think, oh my God, I can't work that out. Blah, blah, blah. You need to just ignore it and move on. So actually this bit here, les magasins qui ont pour but, blah, 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 ignore that. However, we do know the word shops. So that's a key little word, but the bit that follows it, we don't need to worry about that, what that means, to the point that I'm not even going to tell you what it means. So something about shops, something caritative. So charity, we know the word, charity shops. Était is were or was. Sur le point. Now this is an important phrase that we need to be able to work out. Sur le point. So they were at the point of, or just about to, fermer, close, in 2017. So actually, if I get my green pen back, this 2017 is the reference to ce n'est pas la première fois. So the first time was in 2017. Now it's making a reference to what is happening today. Another thing, if we continue, un nombre d'entre eux. So again, we don't need to know this. However, you could probably work out that un nombre is a number. We've got viennent. Put this in to make it a bit difficult. So this is viennent linked to vient. Have just been sauvé is saved. So they've actually managed to avoid these economic problems and they have been saved. If we continue, we've then got swinging straight in after that. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to highlight it. Straight after that, we are swinging in with avant. So this is even before 2017. So this is putting it even further in the past. Avant les vieux. So again, we've got the use of old to talk about old entreprise. Entreprise is businesses and bénévole is voluntary, so businesses that deal in the voluntary charity sector. So we've got two things there already positioning it much further in the past. Avant and then vieux. And ont été victimes, so were victims de la crise économique. I think you probably work most of that out. So they were in the past even further of the economic crisis. That's probably making a reference to 2007, 2008. But, mais il reste encore, so here's another word, encore, en danger de fermeture. Now, fermeture, we don't really see that much, but it is linked to fermer. So, il reste encore en danger de fermeture. Rester is to stay. This context, we might say remain. So they still remain in danger of closing, and the rest we don't need to worry about. So it's really, really important to get the idea that there are lots and lots of things going on here. There are lots and lots of things. All of the events in this have happened in the past, but they're making references. Some things may still happen in the future, so some of them are still in danger of closing. Other things were even further in the past than that too. So this is just getting an idea that one of the skills you need to be able to master is working out where all these different things have happened, where they've taken place, have they happened yet, will they happen, and what is the likelihood of that happening too. I'll just finish this off with saying this is really complicated stuff. There's a lot going on here. And again, we're at the point where we're thinking, where can we pick off those little marks? Can I pick off a mark here? Can I take a mark from there? How can I just get an extra 5, 6, 7 marks across a paper? That's the point that we're at with this. Okay? Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.